Hi, so today we are going to be talking about how to shop for, prepare, and consume winter squash in a healthy and sustainable way. So if you're in for learning, let's dive in. Hi, my name is Sabrina from livestylishandsustainable.com and the Stylish and Sustainable podcast. For the best healthy and sustainable living advice, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification to know when our new videos are coming out. If you're looking for new ways to eat and prepare healthy seasonal foods, by the end of this video, you are going to know how to eat, store, and prepare winter squash. Knowing how to eat seasonal, healthy, organic foods is key not only to reducing your environmental footprint, but also to engaging in healthy habits and to increasing your health and vitality. So before we dive into any of the in-depth nutritional information or how to prepare or pick squash, I think we should cover the most basic question, and that is, what is squash? Well, I have one right here for you. This is my favorite variety of winter squash, and this is called a delicata squash. And I'm going to talk later about what makes this particular specimen very wonderful. But in general, winter squash is going to be orange, green, or white, and it will look very hard. It will feel very hard. It might make a kind of plasticky sound when you hit it with your fingers, and it's delicious. And we're going to talk about why you should eat winter squash throughout the video. So let's talk about why someone would ever want to eat squash, besides, of course, how wonderful and delicious it is. Well, there are lots of health benefits that winter squash has. First of all, it's packed with antioxidants. You can tell that something is packed with antioxidants if it's filled with color, and there is so much color in winter squash, even the ones that are white on the outside. Winter squash is also really great for your immune system, for your skin, for your bones, and for your hair and vision health. So let's talk winter squash nutritional value. So in 100 grams of winter squash, which is about 2/3 of a cup, there are 27 calories and 1.4 grams of fiber. And you know fiber is wonderful for digestion. As far as notable vitamins, the highest concentration of vitamin in winter squash is vitamin B6. And in 2/3 of a cup, you can get 8% of your daily value of vitamin B6. Okay, so let's talk about how to pick a good winter squash when you're shopping. So, as I said earlier, this is my prime specimen of a delicata squash. There are tons of varieties of squash, so they won't always have these striations, they won't always be this color. But there are some things that are very normalized across different varieties of squash that you can look for so that it's always going to be a sign of success. So the first thing is that they are heavy and firm. So like I talked about earlier, you kind of want it to make that, like, I don't know if you can hear that plasticky noise when you tap it with your fingertips, and you don't want to be able to sink your nail into it. So your nail should not be able to sink into the skin or the flesh when you touch it. There should be no gouges, no gashes, no major bruises, and you want this stem to be nice and green. You don't want it to be black. If it's a little bit gray, that's okay. It means it's been a bit since it's been harvested, but you want it to be kind of like an olive green or a dark green. And if the squash is super shiny, and I mean super shiny, because there's a little bit of a shine to this, but not much. But if it's super shiny, like it looks like it's been waxed or something, that means it was harvested too early before it was ripe. So although it's totally fine to eat, right? It might have less nutritional value than one that was really harvested at its peak prime ripeness. Okay, so let's talk about when to shop and how to shop for winter squash. So winter squash is, shocker, a winter vegetable, and its season really starts September, November. That's when you'll start seeing it show up. And then if it's stored well in cold storage, theoretically you can see winter squash in a nice healthy way that looks good all the way until like early February usually. Now, where do you shop for winter squash? Well, I always say the first place to go is your backyard. So if you can grow it at home, do so. It takes a little bit of space, but it's super easy to grow, and you can be relatively successful growing it in just about any climate in the United States. And just you can always Google and read more about how to plant and propagate winter squash. You can barter with neighbors, and then of course the best option if you can't grow it yourself is to find a local farmer's market. Connect with a farmer and get your squash there. Now your final option is to shop for it, of course, at a grocery store. Now some grocery stores just won't carry winter squash because unfortunately it's not a widely consumed vegetable in some areas. Now when you're shopping for winter squash, I always suggest that you buy organic. This is because there are several different occasions in which you will be eating the skin. Some people like to eat the skin, and I say if you're going to eat the skin of a vegetable, it needs to be organic so that you are guaranteed to not be consuming pesticides that have been sprayed directly on the skin of the vegetable. Okay, so how do you store and prep winter squash? Well, to store winter squash, it can be stored in a cool and dry place for about 2 months, so it has a really nice long storage life. If you cut it or cook it, it can be stored wrapped with beeswax wraps or in a container in the fridge for up to 4 days, really. It's the safe area. How to prep it. Okay, so winter squash is notorious for being somewhat dangerous prepping because they can be very hard to cut and prepare. So what I used to do is I would take the winter squash and I would cut off the stem, right? So I would chop it here and then you cut it lengthwise, and you always scoop out the guts. No matter what you're doing to prep a winter squash, you're always going to scoop out all the little seeds and stuff. And yes, you can roast the seeds. Usually there's not a ton in there. It's not like a pumpkin, but you can absolutely roast the seeds. Or eat them raw if you're weird. But yeah, you're gonna wanna scoop the guts out. A great tip that I recently learned though is if you take the squash and you pierce it a couple times around the edges and you stick it in a microwave for 3 minutes and take it out and let it cool, it will be so much softer and you will be 100% less likely to chop off your fingers while trying to cut it open. So that's the hack. Pierce it a couple times in the skin, stick it in the microwave for 3 minutes, let it cool, and then do your slicing in half and scooping the guts out. Okay, so how to prep and prepare winter squash so that it's super delicious and easy to consume. So the easiest way, I think, and my favorite way to prepare winter squash is baking it. And then you can do lots of things afterwards. So my favorite way to bake winter squash is to slice it in half, scoop out the guts, coat it in olive oil, and then rub on a mixture of cardamom, curry, cinnamon, and a little bit of chili powder. And then just roast it in the oven at 400 for 25 to 35 minutes. You can always just put salt and pepper on it too. It's really delicious roasted with any type of seasoning you like to put on it. Now, once you take it out, there's a whole bunch of things you can do with it. First, you could just stuff the squash just like that with some quinoa or chickpeas, and it's super yummy just like that. You can scoop the flesh out of the skin and put it in a blender, a Vitamix, or whatever you have with a little bit of vegetable stock for a really yummy soup. Or another really fun option is you can take the flesh out, mash it up a little bit, and spread it on some homemade whole wheat toast and put a fried egg on top of it. That is really, really yummy. Do you eat winter squash a lot? If you do, be sure to make a comment below about what your favorite variety is, whether you like kabocha or delicata or whatever your favorite variety is, and what your favorite recipe is. You can add a link below. It's a great way for us to build community and share our favorite ways to cook with winter squash. If you're interested in living a more healthful life, in case you didn't already know, I am a health and nutritional coach and a stress reduction coach, certified aromatherapist, and of course, a yoga teacher and meditation coach. So I specialize in holistic wellness, and there is a lot of amazing tools that I have for you to move along your health journey. The first one is a Essential Oil 101 class that you can get on my website, download it, learn all about how to use essential oils, how they're made, so on and so forth. The second one is my map to optimum health that you can get at the link below as well. This is a downloadable PDF with a bunch of reflection activities, and at the end you will generate your own map to sustainable health. It's super easy and creates really easy, achievable goals to find your health goals. And then the final thing, of course, is to listen to the podcast. We have an amazing podcast. Episodes come out every Thursday with great gals that are living sustainably, rocking it. It's fantastic information. In case you haven't already noticed, all of the information at Stylish and Sustainable is free. That's right, the podcast, the YouTube, all the downloadable content. And in order to do that, I work very many hours. So if you would like to support our message here at Stylish and Sustainable and to get insider access to a whole bunch of extra content and newsletters and percentages off of coaching one-on-one with me, go to our Patreon link. That is below, and you can support us and learn more about our cause there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to share this video with your lady friends and your guy friends. Of course, they need to learn how to cook, for heaven's sake. Everyone should learn how to cook winter squash. It's a really fantastic winter vegetable. So share the video, comment below, and I will see you next week.